The Grey Wardens, a recurring theme in every Dragon Age game. But how did these people come to be?
The Chantry teaches us that it is the hubris of men which brought the Darkspawn into our world. The mages had sought to usurp heaven, but instead they destroyed it.
The First Blight started in 800 TE. Many sources claim it was started by magisters breaking into and tainting the Golden City. There are, however, many that discount this theory, among them the dwarves, who were arguably the biggest victims of the seemingly endless masses of Darkspawn. The deep roads, their greatest creation, were rapidly lost to them, and many of their kingdoms fell before the Blight even reached the surface. As if the limitless horde of Darkspawn wasn't enough, it was found to be led by an immensely powerful dragon that carried the taint with it, the archdemon Dumat. Some 90 years later, in 890 TE, after almost an entire century of gruesome war against the Horde, veterans of the Blight came together in Weishaupt Fortress in the Enderfelds. Warden legends sing of their leader Carinus and his travels to recruit allies. Others dispute his existence. Whatever the truth might be, this group of veterans researched ways to protect themselves against the taint that every Darkspawn carried with it. Eventually, this research led to the development of the joining ritual. It allowed them to focus entirely on combating the Blight by symbolically cutting all ties to worldly concerns. A handful of notable dwarven warriors, led by Paragon Morok the Maul, were also present during the founding of the Order. Those dwarves shared everything they knew about the Darkspawn with the Wardens, as well as a group of Orth people that came from the Wandering Hills. The Orth knew how to tame griffins, taming being a very generous word here. It is believed that the Wardens took their name from the griffins' grey coloration, but it is unknown if that's true. The Grey Wardens were officially founded, and they swore to accept anyone, no matter their race, gender, social or political standpoint, or even their criminal background, as long as they were deemed suitable to join.
Men and women from every race, warriors and mages, barbarians and kings.
The first written record of the Wardens on the battlefield was during the attack on Botton. They arrived, mounted on griffins, charging headfirst into the Darkspawn, with each Warden taking on 10 or 20 of them at once. The Darkspawn, being unable to tell the Wardens from their own, were slaughtered, and against all odds the siege was won. The Order launched an aggressive campaign against the Horde and reclaimed lands that most had given up on. Not bound in service to any ruler, they had the freedom to sacrifice towns or castles that could not be won, saving their strength for the battles that really mattered. People took note of the Wardens' victories, and they quickly gained allies, recruits, resources, and everything they needed from all lands. Building fortresses, the Order turned into elite shock troops, making devastating strikes against the Darkspawn, and rallying the common armies to greater deeds.
Grey Wardens can inspire, make you better than you think you are.
It took another 102 years from their founding, until the Grey Wardens ended the First Blight in 992 TE. The massive battle, composed of the forces of Tevinter, Rivain and the Syrian, took place in the Silent Plains, where Dumat was slain through the sacrifice of a Grey Warden. It took several more years to slay the Darkspawn that remained on the surface, but the Wardens had created their legend. The victory at the Silent Plains gained them the favor of most nations, promising support in future Blights. They were also granted the right of conscription, ensuring they would always have sufficient recruits. 207 years later, in 1199 TE, the Second Blight ravaged the lands of Thedas. Zazikel, the Dragon of Chaos, was tainted by the Darkspawn and brought the hordes once more to the surface. The city of Botton, the very place where the Grey Wardens first appeared in battle, was destroyed before a defense could even be organized. As a result, the Imperium withdrew from the Enderfelds, focusing instead on defending central Tevinter. The Anderfells took the brunt of the hit, so far that even the headquarters of the Grey Wardens, Weishaupt Fortress, came under siege by the Darkspawn. Yet while the Imperium had forsaken the Wardens, the young nation of Orlais, under the leadership of Emperor Cordelis Dracon I, proved motivated and capable of fighting the Blight. In 1227 TE, after several decisive victories against the Darkspawn, the armies of Orlais broke the siege of Weishaupt, and together with the Wardens they proceeded to retake the rest of the Anderfells. Over the following decades the Wardens took charge of the war, and eventually Zazikel was slain in 1289 TE at Starkhaven in the Free Marches. Ironically, it was to be a Tevinter Warden by the name of Corrin that would strike down the dragon. A mere 115 years later, in 1404 TE, the Third Blight began with the awakening of Thoth, the Dragon of Fire. Most of the conflicts occurred in Central Thedas, in Orlais and Tevinter. Yet despite the hordes being larger than what they faced in the Second Blight, a rapidly organized defense, led of course by the Wardens, allowed them to hold back the Darkspawn. Likely realizing that it had no point, the Darkspawn instead shifted their attention to the lightly defended Free Marches. Tevinter and Orlais remained neutral at first, not wanting to send their troops there, yet the pressure put on them by the Grey Wardens eventually dragged them into the war as well. Thoth was slain by the Wardens near Hunterfell in the Free Marches in 1419 TE, just 15 years after it had started. The Fourth Blight began in 1618 TE, with the awakening of Andorral, the Dragon of Slaves. Most of the initial damage was done outside of traditional Warden territory, in the Free Marches, Rivain and Antiva. Tevinter and Orlais were only lightly attacked and refused to send aid. It all ended a short 12 years after it had begun, near Aesley, presumably between Rivain and Antiva. There, Garahel's army faced the Darkspawn horde, and he personally killed Andorral. During the Fourth Blight, the Griffins, who had been loyal allies of the Wardens since their founding, were corrupted, in the end causing their supposed extinction. Some of the Griffins had swallowed Darkspawn blood, and the taint began to spread inside them. In a modified version of the joining using blood magic, they were saved, with unintended consequences however. Those that were put through the joining had their strength increased to unimaginable heights, yet Griffins have a natural hate against the Darkspawn and the taint. Sensing this taint inside their own body made them go mad, injuring themselves and attacking everyone around them, not being able to tell friend from foe. It was another 394 years before the Fifth Blight, and the influence of the Grey Wardens decreased significantly. Many people started to think the next Blight would never happen, of course not realizing that they were simply an invisible threat to the surface. The dwarves of Orzammar and likely Kal Sharok continued to fight them every single day. Since Darkspawn were slowly written off as extinct, the Wardens as well came to be considered as a relic of the past. Their refusal to aid against the Qunari invasion didn't earn them any approval either. Adding on top of that, there was a quite awkward incident for the Wardens in 799 TE. The Battle of Soldiers' Peak took place in Ferelden. Sophia Dryden, the Warden commander of Ferelden, took up arms against Arland Theron, her own cousin. The previous king had died without an heir, so a fight for the throne started between the two. Arland won through intimidation, butchering nobles to gain support through fear. Dryden was imprisoned, waiting for her execution, yet since many people still supported her claim, they were appeased after Arland allowed her to join the Wardens. This did not stop her from plotting against him however, and after he learned of her plans, the king sent his forces to the Warden castle of Soldiers' Peak. Despite holding out for a while, all of them were killed, and as a result of their plan, Arland banished the Grey Wardens from Ferelden. It wasn't until 2004 TE that the Wardens were allowed back into the country by the young king Merrick Theron, just in time for the start of the Fifth Blight in 2024 TE. It was started by the architect trying to free the Darkspawn from the call of the old gods. He located Orthemiel, the Dragon of Beauty, and induced him with Grey Warden blood, hoping it would free them. It went wrong however, and instead the dragon awoke as an archdemon. The Darkspawn swarmed the Kokari Wilds and were met by the Ferelden army under command of King Cailan and Logain MacTyr. All of Ferelden's Grey Wardens were also present, and everyone, save the army of Logain and 2 Grey Wardens, were slain by the Horde. Logain put himself up as regent and declared the Wardens to be traitors. The civil war that followed was resolved through the actions of the 2 surviving Grey Wardens, Alistair and the Warden. Despite all odds, those 2, with the help of treaties and Riordan, a Ferelden-born warden from Orlais, managed to put an end to the Blight. Depending on player choice, Orthemiel was killed by either Alistair, Logain or the Warden.
And then it was over.
The 5th Blight is the shortest Blight in history, being merely 1 year long. After being granted the Arlington of Amaranthine, the Wardens began to rebuild Vigil's Keep under the leadership of the newly appointed Warden Commander of Ferelden. There they encountered an unusually intelligent variety of Darkspawn, able to speak clearly. A conflict between 2 Darkspawn, the Architect and the Mother, had broken out, which was eventually resolved by the Warden Commander. 11 years later, in 2035 TE, during the war against the Elder One, it was revealed that the Wardens, although enthralled by Corypheus, helped him prepare the ritual that eventually destroyed the Conclave. Not long after that, the ancient Magister Darkspawn created a false calling, tricking every Warden in Orlais into thinking they would soon die. Desperate to prevent any future blight from happening before they all went to meet their demise, the Wardens looked everywhere for help, even to Winter. Having good intentions of raising a demon army to march into the Deep Road and kill the slumbering archdemons, the Wardens unknowingly enslaved themselves to Corypheus, providing him with 2 armies at the same time. Those in the order that spoke out against it, namely the Warden Informant of Hawk, who can be Alistair, Logain or Stroud, were exiled from the order and forced to flee. It all culminated in the Siege of Adamant. The Inquisition, hoping to stop Warden Commander Clarel from enslaving every Warden in Orlais, attacked the ancient fortress of Adamant in the western approach. After finding out about the true extent of the ritual she had her mages perform, Clarel turned her wrath towards Magister Erimond. She was killed moments later by the Red Lyrian dragon that the Magister had summoned. After surviving the fate, the Inquisitor's party returned to Adamant, where they are faced with a decision on the Order's future in Orlais. Should they choose to banish them, the surviving Wardens return to Weishaupt, and it is believed a battle for control over the Order erupted not soon after. Should the Warden Informant survive, it is believed that he is the leader of this rebellion. Should they instead choose to ally with them, the Wardens slowly began to rebuild after helping the Inquisition in whatever way they were capable. They declared the Order must change and become more open to the general populace. Rumors spread that the Southern Wardens cut ties with their brothers and sisters in the north, and that both factions are currently at war. In both events, all news from Weishaupt eventually cease. It is unknown whether it is an internal conflict
or something far worse.